you know, we want to welcome everybody here.
Everything all at once?
Everything all at once.
It's honestly a sensation.
Aliens listen to it.
Like, oh, that's how I sound.
It's weird, right?
I had a parent, when I worked at college admissions, I had a parent stop me that I'd never met in person, and she goes, "Oh, you Kyle?" I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "I knew it was you by your voice." I'm like, "Oh, God."
I'm sorry.
It's so distinct.
That must be difficult.
It was something. So.
I feel like I can recognize voices pretty good.
Yeah.
Certain voices that you hear a lot, you know, you get very familiar with.
Yeah.
You said you were teaching classes online?
Oh yeah, through the pandemic.
What do you teach?
So I teach English at Slippery Rock.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow, cool.
You know,
And bookstore ownership.
Yeah, she pays the bill so I can have a fun job.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
subsidize
That's the way it
this
works.
whole
That's right.
joint.
You know, because I have like insurance and the mortgage gets paid.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And you get to hang out in a bookstore and do
Yeah.
book stuff.
Yep.
Yeah,
All
and
day.
it's
every
nice
day.
because he lets me. He does so much of like the managing, and then I get to just jump on like the fun things that I want to do for it.
That
So.
does sound a
That's
good
like
deal.
Dave's job.
That's my job. And I gotta say, yeah, he does everything. I'm here for personality injection.
Exactly. We need him. He's a critical part of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I gotta say, I hope none of our previous guests are listening, but I'm inordinately excited about this one because I myself have a degree in English, and I read so much. I read probably about a book a week, so I was like, oh, I'm so
great.
excited
Yeah.
for this interview. You know?
Just to
into
introduce
that.
you guys, we have Lauren and Kyle, the owners of Werner Books on Liberty Plaza.
Yep.
Erie's
Liberty
local
Plaza.
bookstore.
Erie's community bookstore.
Community bookstore. That's it.
Official tagline.
That's sweet.
that
We get all of our
made
books.
up.
Me and Dave are in a book club, and we get all of our book club books from you guys, and you always help us out and are super cool, and we appreciate that. And we're happy to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We're so stoked to be here. This is
Yeah.
my first time getting to be on a podcast.
How
awesome.
exciting! Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the best podcast in Erie.
That's right.
All of our intergalactic and interplanetary listeners will let you know about it, I'm sure. All 5 of them.
All 5 of them. And they're all in different countries.
They're all in different countries.
At least.
It's a mysterious thing. We're not sure how that worked out, but we appreciate you guys out there.
Well,
They can order books online from us.
Yeah.
You can order books from your website?
Well, yeah, it just sends me an email, so then I'll respond and mail the book. I don't know if I can do international. Can I do international?
So you can fill out the like all of those all
Like
the
a book
blanks on
request?
it. Yeah, the
Yeah,
request.
yeah.
Fill it out as if it's an email to Kyle because he is the one who's going to look at it.
Yeah. My parents' next door neighbor sent me an insane email, and she sent me just like it was. They live outside of Pittsburgh, and she was like, "Oh, I'm looking for books about Jackie Kennedy." I'm like,
But the first like couple things that she wrote were just like introducing herself as if like you weren't the one reading.
"Yeah,
the
right,
email.
right."
And it was
Like Kyle grew up next to us. Yeah, I did, but like, why are we doing this? So,
She probably didn't know, obviously.
no, it's all right.
She probably thinks that you have underlings to do that kind of work.
yeah, she
Yeah,
thinks
no.
there's a lot more staff that are doing it than there is.
The glamorous part of owning a bookstore is that you do all the work. Luckily, I have very good staff, which are really awesome.
Absolutely. I love your staff.
But they're the nicest people. They're wonderful. They all stayed on from the old owners. But the other side of it is though, like I'm in charge of all the stuff that they don't want to do. You know, any of the management stuff, like I have to do it all. You know, so today we were doing inventory. That's why we're like I'm at least exhausted. We did inventory the past 2 days. We have. Do you guys want to guess how many books we scanned? Into
Is
the
this
system?
like in your store or like?
Yeah, like on the floor. Like how many books we scanned?
Oh man.
Are they all the
I do
ones
wanna
you have
guess.
available?
Yes.
Do we get a prize if we're...
Sure. I don't know. Sure. You get a prize.
I'm gonna guess 14,721.
I'm going to guess 6742.
It's like you said 67. You said 14.
Yeah.
That was like 26,000.
I won though. I get the prize, dude.
I think it was exact.
Are we
well,
playing Price is Right rules?
Well, we were both under, right?
yeah, I should have just said one over yours.
Oh, that would have been the smart move, dude. I hate it. Me and Celinda play a game whenever we're at the grocery store where we have to guess what the total is going to be before we get to the register. And whenever she picks like $5 over than me, I am so fucking infuriated with her that like I contemplate domestic abuse.
No.
But it never comes to that, thank
No.
God.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We do not condone domestic abuse here, just so you guys all know, all the listeners.
We'd be leaving. We'd be out the door.
Yeah, that would be bad.
I'm nice. You know, I'm a nice guy. So.
Right.
We
None
do,
of that.
One time with one of my exes, we did like supermarket sweepstakes. You know, like tried to shop as fast as we could, which is wildly confusing to people at Walmart that don't know. You know,
Why you're running around the
Yeah, I'm
aisles?
just running around grabbing like, you know.
Is that what we get? Is that the prize? I get a supermarket sweep
Of the store? No, I'll give you a mystery bag of books. How about that? We'll give you a mystery bag. So I
Oh
got
my
some good
God.
random stuff in there.
Yes. All the stuff that you did that's been on the shelf for 500 years. That's okay. That's always the best stuff anyway.
That's what the mystery bags are. Yeah. People always ask us how we make this. We're like, just extra stuff. I don't know. It's overstock.
Right.
So.
Fill it
We
in there.
get like 8 of the same title of a Debbie Maycomer book, and then we accrue those over so long.
If you'd like some Danielle Steele, I have
Yeah.
plenty to offer you.
You got some Nancy Drew for them.
I don't think we don't have a ton of Nancy Drew. A lot of Hardy Boys right now.
Okay.
Not a lot of Nancy Drew though.
Well, I was always more of a Hardy Boys fan myself anyway, so whatever works.
Yeah.
How did you guys come into book ownership? Bookstore ownership? Hopefully everybody has book ownership.
Should I go? Should I tell the story? Or do you want to go?
I'll start, and then you pick up where.
All right.
Okay. So initially, our friend Kelly, who like. We really only have 6 friends in our lives at this point, but so
there's
one of
like-
our 6 friends.
There's like four couples that we all, there's like 8 of us that we spend
Okay,
all our
so
time
yes,
with.
8
Cool.
of us total, and Kelly was a really frequent patron of Werner Books, so much so that Gail approached her at one point and said, "Do you want to buy the store?" Kelly didn't want to, but she told us about it, and
She texted you.
Yeah, she texted me and was just like, "Do you have any interest in bookstore owning? Is that like something you?"
Like a bucket. I feel like that's like a life
Well,
goal.
so the way it works, so I was working Lauren's a college English professor.
Mm-hmm.
So she has a good job that pays real money and is fun sometimes. Not all.
It's fun. No,
I'm
I
sure
love
not
my
during
job.
finals
Yeah.
week when you're reading
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are
tons of
moments
papers.
it's not fun.
She's a doctor with a PhD. Like, it's really cool. I was
Badass.
working in college admissions for 7 years. And then the summer 21, I left. I was working in Edinburgh. It was right when the merger was about to happen. And I was working in admissions. My job was like to recruit students. And I said, I liked Edinburgh. I had a great, like, my boss was amazing, but I couldn't stay there. It was totally unsustainable. So I got a job at WQLN, which also, great job. I was in corporate sales. I was going out to businesses. I was going to places like Werner Books and be like, hey, go on radio or whatever.
Yeah, be a sponsor.
And it was cool. But then in October, it was Halloween, right?
Yeah, like right around then.
And Kelly texts us. I'm like, this would be cool. Well, the other part of it, one of our other friends in our little friend group is Emily Ernest, who owns Glass Growers.
Okay,
Gallery,
cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So she bought that 2 years ago.
Yes, in like June of 2020, she told us, like the week before she got married too.
Yeah.
She was like, "So I put a bid in to buy Glass Growers," and we were just like, "What?"
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but
So
she did it.
when Kelly texted us, and Emily loves it. She's great. Like, she loves Glass Growers. So we were like, okay, she's doing this thing. So the day Kelly texted Lauren, I texted Emily and was like, hey, let's go get a drink. We walked over to Altered Steaks. We lived right there. And I was like, should I do this? Like, is this a crazy thing to do? Do we buy a bookstore? She goes, you got to talk to Gail, send me and do the whole thing. So we emailed her. And
We emailed her that night and
Yeah.
asked at least to meet with her and talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the price was right, and she's great. Like, she was helping us with inventory today.
Oh,
She's
that's
been
awesome.
retired for
Yeah.
almost a year. So that was October. So I'm still working at QLN at the time, right? So I'm trying to like buy a bookstore and not let on that I'm buying a bookstore
At
to
work,
the QLN
yeah.
people. And my boss Pat said, he said, why? When I quit, he goes, oh, so that's why you got so weird around Halloween. I'm like, okay, all right. Okay. So so we went through all the stuff. I mean, you would be amazed at the amount of like paperwork you have to do to
buy
do
a
anything.
business.
Oh, yeah.
Between getting financing and getting your lawyer stuff all squared away, and luckily we had some good support. Like, we worked with Gannon Small Business Development Center, which was really helpful. Jake Jones actually was our guy, but now he runs Camp Studios, which is kind of cool. So he kind of left and did his own thing. And then we were banking with Key Bank. Like, they took a flyer on us, and they probably... I mean, I'm glad they did. I think they're glad they did, too, because we, fun fact, we paid our loan off in a year.
Wow.
Nice. That's incredible.
Yeah,
that's
so,
fantastic.
So that was a cool thing. And, like, but at first, a couple of the banks were a little hesitant because they were like, you guys have never owned a business, bookstores, 2022.
Yeah,
like,
that's
what the
a
hell?
dying thing, right?
So we were like, no, it's a real thing. And then, so then that all got done. So then in March, I quit at QN in February.
Yeah, you quit a little
Prematurely.
prematurely, but like
The plan was for everything to be signed and done March 1st. So I quit like end of February. Well, it didn't get done on March 1st. So I didn't have a job. So I went to the store every day for a month.
and Gail effectively trained you.
Yeah.
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 just-
And Shar, yeah. And our Shar, who's like our whole, all the employees, like they met me, they knew who I was, they were awesome. And so then on March 22nd, we went and we signed all the paperwork. And then March 23rd, we owned the store. And we didn't close, we didn't skip a beat. In fact, outside of holidays, the only 2 days we've closed since we've owned the store have been the past 2 days for inventory. So we've had no reason to like, hey, I mean, we're open all the time, So it was one of those where there was no switch with ownership. Gail she's the most generous person because she was like, hey, you can come in and like learn all the trade secrets, even though you don't own it. Which our lawyer
told us. Yes,
He was not happy.
when he found out that was what was going on for like months on end, he was just like, oh, that is not how
Why is
things
that
are
bad?
done.
I don't know. I think from his, like, it wasn't that it was bad on our end, but on her end, he's thinking like, well, what if you, and I get it, like my brother.
What if you learn all the stuff and then you go buy a different store or
right,
whatever?
Exactly. But
Right. What
we
if
bought
it falls
was,
through and then we open a competing business?
what we
That,
bought
I think,
was
is, like,
$26,000 worth of book, or like 26,000 books. Like that's what we bought, and all the other stuff.
Yeah, the name and the brand and
Exactly.
all that stuff.
And that's the one that's been the big thing has been the support from all of Gail's old customers,
Right.
that have stuck around with us and luckily like me a lot, which is cool.
Sure.
friendly guy.
Yeah, I always had a good interaction
Yeah.
coming into the store and ordering our books and stuff. So,
it's been that was really what we bought. Was Werner Books, and people always ask us, "Oh, are you going to change the name?" Why would we? The store's been there for 12 years.
is she Gail Warner? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So people ask that. My favorite are the customers that come in and go, "Oh, you're the new owner. We have owned the store almost a year now." Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, you have not come in. Like, okay, yeah, sure. I'm always so friendly, but I'm almost like, come on, like. We've done this.
Yeah, right?
Like, I've been in charge for so long. Like, yeah, I'm the new guy.
But before you got into it, was there a point where you were like, "Oh, this can't be that hard"?
Owning the bookstore,
I always feel like I jump into like big projects and stuff like this podcast, and I'm like, "How hard can it be, really?" And then I'm just overwhelmed
So,
with all of the things I need to
we've
do.
always wanted, the two of us, since we've been together, have always wanted to do some sort of community-minded business in town. And the first one, do you want to tell them what the first one was?
We don't have to say this embarrassing stuff.
Come on.
We wanted to open a donut shop.
Yeah, we did.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
So we were living in this apartment on 9th Street.
Well, the
right by
embarrassing
Prep.
part is that the donuts we made were never all that good.
They were okay.
They were okay.
Because here's why. We were living in this tiny apartment on 9th Street across from Prep. And we had this galley kitchen that was no wider than this table we're sitting at. And we were like frying donuts in like a
Trying
Dutch
to figure
oven.
out how to do.
Yeah, and like trying not to set
It
ourselves
was a
on
fire
fire.
hazard.
It
Seriously.
was horrible.
You got a lot of steep donut competition around
Yeah,
here.
Mighty
too.
Fine is
Mighty
so
Well,
good.
so that was
HK,
our
I guess
whole
they're not
thing
things,
was
But check.
there was no donut shop in downtown, right? Like in downtown. So we're like, if you open downtown, there's a market there. Now this was
Right.
pre-COVID. Yeah, this was like 2016. That's right when we got married, right? 2016, 17. So we, so then we kind of put that on the back burner because I got the job at Edinburgh. Like I was working at Gannon, I got a job at Edinburgh, moved to Edinburgh, we lived there, and it was still kind of in our heads somewhere that we wanted to do something. So then we were like, oh, bookstore, like that makes sense.
That fits.
Yeah. And we'd been going to Werner, like we weren't. I wouldn't say we were like regular customers though.
Not as much as I would have liked.
Yeah.
In fact, we joke that because we live right by Strong Vincent, so we live right in that part of town, and we joke that Press lost about $100 a month from her. But
I was ordering a ton of stuff.
like she was buying a lot of stuff. I mean, we still have a great relationship with them. Like their manager Maggie's a friend of ours, so that's kind of nice because I call her like, hey, if we don't have a book, and vice versa. You know, she'll call me, hey, I'm looking for a used copy of X,
Right.
Or if I'm looking for a new copy of Y. You know, we have that relationship, which is kind of nice.
That's one of the good things that I think is rare around like the world, other than here in Erie and other cities, our town is like our size, is that we're small enough to be able to still have these like interpersonal relationships with other business owners and not see them as like a competition or threat.
Right. Like a camaraderie.
Like a camaraderie, you know, an Erie community type deal, you know, where we support each other.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I try my very best to not go to those dirty bastards up at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah. or Amazon.
Or Amazon.
I had to get something at Barnes & Noble. It wasn't for the store, but it was something they had and like I couldn't get. It was like one of those things. Like It was like a puzzle. I wasn't whatever. And I walked in. I felt so dirty. I was like, ugh. I was like, I hope no one recognized me. And then she's like, no one's gonna recognize you. Like you're not that
and
important.
you're not the one who needs to be embarrassed. If you recognize them, you're like, why are you?
Right.
Yeah.
Why are my customers here? Right. So.
Yeah, it's
So
like
Linda used to be a manager at Barnes & Noble for a few years before she got her job that she has now. But
Is that like an irrational fear? Like you walk in Barnes and Noble, and like the second you walk in, they're like, "It's the Werner Books guys."
So
books from Barnes & Noble.
So we went to the book sale at the Great American Book Sale at the ice rink this year, right? Mm-hmm. So we went and we were.
I was like, do I need to wear a mask?
Like so people don't recognize.
exactly.
Not for
It's like
COVID.
the book
So
sale.
I'm like,
over my
people are gonna
eyes.
think like, oh my god, he's buying books to go resell them at the store. What a monster! So I walk in and I, like a couple of my customers recognized me, and that was cool. Like they were like, oh hey, Kyle, no big deal. And then I did see, oh god, what's his name? The manager at Books Galore. Like he was there too. So it was
He's
like,
a really cool guy from what I understand as well.
So it was one of those things where it was just like, all right, he's here, whatever. And then as I'm checking out, the woman who was checking me out goes, oh, we used to let Gail come in early. We don't get, like, if you want to come in early next year, we'll let you. I'm like, oh, okay.
First pick.
Yeah, right? I was like, oh, man, this is cool. Like, I was like, don't be embarrassed about that. And also, like, I think a lot of our customers are all about, you know, like, supporting us and us supporting them. And also, we're providing service. Like, you know, if I can get, one of the things I always look for when we go out, when I either do a book sale or can get books cheap, are large print, because they're surprisingly hard to get, and we actually have a lot of customers that read large print, you know, and need it. So it's like stuff like that. Foreign language we're always looking for, like novels written in like that's a long-term project, but like novels written in like Spanish or Arabic or whatever, you know. We're working on that slowly but surely. Kids books too.
You have a binder of like when people are asking for certain like specific titles that they wonder if they can find used, and you take that with you too.
Yeah, the white binder. Yeah, so if you're ever looking for something used.
So you have this massive book collection now. Do you have any do you have like a personal book collection of like first edition like fancy books or anything like that?
If anything, I think owning a bookstore has made me like less personally like attached to my books in some way, because I'm just like, well, I don't have to have huge bookshelves at home. I have 26,000 books on Liberty.
Right, yeah.
So,
Because we can just grab anything we want, right?
Yeah.
Like I have a book. Dr. Ranish came in. She came in, one of our customers. She's a doctor in town. She goes, she had brought in The Night Circus, right? Aaron Morgenstern, which I haven't read. And she goes, oh, this book's amazing. I'm like, all right. So before I even did it, I just put it right in my bag. Like it didn't go in the computer, it didn't go in the system, it just goes
That
right in my
one's
bag.
for me.
We did that with Anne McCaffrey the other day, right? For you?
Yeah, no, I got a Dragon Riders of Pern. One of those fantasy ones that are a little hard to find.
Yeah, so we should put it at the store, but it's like in a stack at home. So, no, we don't have any, like, and the other thing is we don't deal a lot in, like, first edition rare books. We have some, but it's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So we don't do it.
I think people who are book collectors, they're first of all, they're in larger cities because that's where like so many more things are available to them, and I just don't know that like Erie necessarily has a market
that.
for rare.
Sure.
And yeah.
No,
I don't know any book collectors like that.
There's a great documentary on them. Called
yeah,
The
the
Booksellers on Amazon. Totally worth watching. And we watched it. We were like, I'm so glad I'm not like these people. Because they're like, oh, I have, this guy's house had like all these shelves, all these books, like white gloves, like, oh, again. And I'm like, it was a really cool documentary, but I'm almost like, I am so glad I'm not like that, right? I'm really glad I'm selling paperback James Patterson and Danielle Steele to people, which is what I do.
You know what I really like about old books, though?
They smell.
The smell, dude.
Yeah.
The smell. I love it so much.
Crack one of them open.
Just give it a big whiff.
Yeah.
I was in Chicago many years ago, and we went to the library, and I asked them, like, where's your oldest book? And they took me to it, and I just opened it and smelled it, and then I was like, thank you, and left.
Yeah. See, I don't know. I like new book smell personally.
New book smell.
New book smell.
What? Get
Oh,
out of here.
absolutely, 100%. And I've been around a lot of old books, but I'm like, how many people have touched this? Like, I don't even,
And I'm sniffing the oldest one they have.
The oldest one they have. I don't like it. I also have like a little anxiety that I'll flip a page too hard and it'll just tear or something because it's so old.
Yeah.
And get like the FBI
That's why
out there.
you just give them the sniff, and that's it, dude.
See, I don't know. I don't think I've ever just sniffed a book and set it down. I usually read it.
You need to go down to the Library of Congress and just spend a day just sniffing
them.
books.
Find my book of choice, dude.
See, I agree with the new books though. There's something about the crisp pages. Something about a really good binding too. I hate the cheap bindings with the glue. I want something actually sewn. Yeah, no,
Right,
I feel
yeah.
it on the new
We had a customer come in the one day. We had a new book, a couple new books came in, and she was like, they were sitting on the desk because I haven't put them on the shelves, right? I hadn't gotten there. And she was like, oh, this book. She opens up and just cracked the spine of this brand new book. And I almost want to be like, okay, you gotta get out.
You got
what
you
are you
either
doing?
buy that or
yeah,
leave
right.
now.
It's like, oh my god, why are you doing this to me? So and we, when I do get new books in, I'm just I'm so careful because I'm I want because being a new and used bookstore, I don't want people to think oh, he's passing this.
Yeah, it's a new book,
right? It's no, we are very careful about
And when
that,
we do both read something new and take the dust jacket off, we then sell it as used.
Right.
Because we've both.
We did that the other day. Yeah.
Does it bother you when you get a book, a used book that's earmarked?
No.
No. I know some people.
It bothers me when I read one that's earmarked.
Really?
If somebody lends me one that's earmarked, I'm like, oh, these fucking savages.
See,
Yeah, use a bookmark.
Use a bookmark.
Yeah.
And
Use
I
a
never
receipt,
use a
yeah,
I never use a bookmark either. It's always a receipt or a napkin or something that I just find on my table, post-it notes, whatever.
My bookmarks still to this day are my old business cards
Oh,
from various old jobs because I don't need them anymore, but I still have 1,000 of them at home.
Right.
you
Make
know,
use of
so-
them.
see, I always earmark in case I ever do sell a book off because my biggest pet peeve is when I get a used book, and it's happened more when I was in school, buying off of Amazon or whatever, getting all my English books. I hate when people highlight.
Oh, I love
underline
that.
stuff.
I
hate
was
it.
cheat codes for all the classes I took, having everything highlighted
See, and
already.
I was a big judger about it. I'd be like, why'd you underline this passage?
No, those people helped me pass college. That's the reason I made it through.
I wrote a paper on the Good Soldier, and see what happens when I do that though is when I'm reading, if it's a really good book, I'm like, this is good. If I brought that copy in, it's probably 150 pages out of it is just all underlined, and then
See, my thing is when I was in graduate school, you could tell how lazy I got because the first chapter would be all highlighted, written,
Right.
And then the second chapter a couple things. Then by the third, you're oh, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore.
I can do it with textbooks, but when I started this book club, I'm I'm going to highlight certain things so I know things I want to talk about, and then I ended up highlighting the whole book, and I'm like, there's no way we're going to be able to talk about all this stuff. And I just gave up.
No, yeah, we each host a book club.
Yeah.
Now through the store, so. There's a lot. That's the thing with. That's one of the things we're trying to do too. Is have more community events, right?
Mm-hmm.
And book clubs is a good segue. So we have some people like you guys, right, who came in and said, "Hey, I need. Well, what do you said? Like, I need 5 copies or 6 copies of X. I don't even remember what the first book you got.
Oh, I don't remember what the first book we got from you either was.
That's a weird
Was it
I
after
could
the
look it up.
fireworks or?
It might have been after the fireworks, or Moon was a
No, it definitely wasn't that book. That
Moon was a
awful,
fickle
horrible
bitch.
book.
That's what it's called.
Moon is something.
No, it wasn't that
Harsh
one. It
Mistress.
wasn't that one.
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't
Confessions, maybe.
Maybe it was that one.
That yeah, because then we got our name, our first ever name
Right.
for our
Yeah.
book club,
Yeah.
which
we're
Which
not
changes-
we won't say it on
No.
here. There's no need for
My
that.
favorite is when like my staff has to read like some of the names. Like they'll like be like, oh, now they just write Tony's book club. Because honestly, like it's just better to do it that way.
It's a lot better for everybody that they don't have to be in our ridiculous fantasies of our book club.
But no, so you guys you walked in, you're like, I was like, is this for a book club? You're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, like I can give you a book club discount, which I do if you buy X number of books, right? Whatever it is. And some people don't get that because I get some customers that are coming and be like, oh, like, well, I need one book. It's for my book club. I'm like, you're the only one buying this book this
Yeah.
month. Like, you're not in a book club that we work with.
Yeah.
Like it's all part
Like
of it.
tell your other
Yeah,
book members
right,
to
right.
support. That was like my whole thing. I
Yeah.
was like, let's support a local book club
Yeah.
since we're going to be buying a lot of books,
Right.
And we'll get them from Warner altogether.
And you didn't even know you were getting
Yeah.
a discount, so.
We were just trying to support local, be
Yeah.
good human beings.
Right, and here we are now.
Right.
In your
Podcasting,
basement.
yeah.
Here we are now.
It's not a basement. It's Everything at Once Studios.
It's a-
Thank you very much.
It's a studio, yeah.
Respect.
Yeah. That one
Respect.
That one book thing kind of reminds me of like the old Mitch Hedberg joke about like getting the Subway for ducks. You know,
Yeah, right.
He's like, hey, can I get this bread? It's for a duck, and they just give it to him for free. It's like, why don't I just go in there and say it's for a duck
Right.
every time? It's the same thing with the book club.
It's this lady, right? For a book club, so I just get a discount. And so, but we host one. So I host one through so we have one that the store's been hosting for the duration. Like 11 years or whatever. Yeah. And Gail used to run it. Now we have one of our customers. She runs it, which is nice because like they're great. The group's great. They're retired, mostly retired. Not all of them are retired, but most of them are retired teachers and nurses. So they're a good group. And then I host one at the Hagen History Center, which is the second Wednesday of the month, right?
Yeah.
Second Wednesday.
It's called the Canal Side
Is that the fancy one with all?
Yes, it is. It's very fancy.
I've heard about this.
Yeah, it's very fancy. So so the best part for me though is that I just have to like show up and have read the book.
Right.
Whereas like Sarah and Pam and Cal at Hagen like do all the emailing and managing and whatever, and like I just show up and be like, all right, like let's talk about the book.
Right.
So we've done some really cool stuff. One of the things we're trying to do with that though is local and regional history. So not just like Erie, but otherwise. So the first book we did was Justin Dombrowski's Murder and Mayhem in Erie, PA, which was really good. And Justin came, which was great.
Oh, sweet, yeah.
Made my life so much easier. Because
Right.
people were like, Kyle, I have a question. I'm like, yeah, Justin's right there. Why don't
He's
you ask
got
him?
you.
And then the second book we did was Harry Burley's biography, which was really good. So Harry Burley, who was the first famous black classical musician who's from Erie.
Oh wow.
Really cool guy. Like that's someone that we don't. In fact, Mark Squelia at the Historical Society and I, during the event, I said, like, I think Erie does a lot. We have a school named after him. Mark's like, no, we don't. We don't do enough for this guy. He's amazing. Like, we need to do more, So, and then the third one we did was Dan Braybender's book, which was Erie Sensational Murder Trials, which same thing. Judge Braybender showed up, did his thing. I didn't have to. I almost didn't say a word, But that book, we've sold more copies of that book than any book this year at the
right
store. That book and Dom DePaulo's
The Ash
Unholy
Wednesday.
Murder of Ash Wednesday are the two most popular books we sell. And I have to say it that way because Dom gets mad because Dan is slowly catching him for sales, right? And
Yeah.
Dom gets all mad at me. But those two books are really great, And Dom's we would do for the book club. It's just too long. Like at book clubs, you gotta have like
200.
200
I think we have
pages,
like a 400 page limit.
yeah.
On our books.
Dom's book's great, but it's just too long. So,
It's real long, yeah.
And I think at some point we might dive into it, But it's too early. We're trying to get people engaged. But
Right.
then we're doing, we're doing some stuff with, like we're doing next month is a memoir by Yvonne Caputo about World War II and her dad, which is kind of cool. So it's a different route than we've gone. And then we're doing Ida Tarbell in March, and then so History of the Standard Oil Company. And then we're going to take a tour, so the group's going to take a tour down to Titusville and do the Drake Well Museum and do the Tarbell House, which is kind of cool. So we're trying to do more of that. And as we kind of go, we're hoping to do more things with, like, books or people from
the area.
Jamestown or Buffalo or Cleveland or Pittsburgh or whatever it is. So that way there's kind of more to it, it's kind of the history side. So we're trying to not just do Erie. We're not doing any books about Oliver Hazard Perry at any point in the
No,
next.
John. You're going to leave our boy John Corrigan out of it.
Oh, John, in John's book would be good to do.
His is
down the
Oliver
road.
Hazard Perry is huge in that book
Yeah,
too. He's badass too. He made me want an Oliver Hazard Perry tattoo.
Can I ask what your beef with Oliver Hazard Perry is? What did he do to you?
So there's two things. One, there's too much Perry stuff in here. Like, I get it, but like, there's a really good episode of Our Erie, another local podcast, right? And the girls on there they had Jonathan Burdick on.
Oh, yeah.
Burdick was on, and because he's a local history guy, right? And
He
Burdick
teaches at Fort LaBeouf,
I think Fort
believe.
LaBeouf, yeah,
But
yeah.
he also runs Rust and Dirt, which is like the Erie, PA history Twitter account. I don't know if he's on other social media, but I follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, like he does a bunch of that stuff. So Burdick was talking about how like Perry, compared to some other people, like Erie people especially, wasn't the great dude that everyone thought he was, right? He wasn't. He was. I know, right? Oh no, he wasn't all that. I mean, you have to listen to the episode. Like, people should go listen to the episode, but he wasn't all that great to like, especially like some of his black soldiers and sailors.
Okay.
Whereas Daniel Dobbins, right, who Dobbins Landing's named after, was like
His
he was.
shipbuilder.
He was really cool, So like. Burdick was kind of like advocating for Dobbins, being like, Dobbins a much cooler dude. Yeah, he wasn't like the hero that, the battle, but, we should like lift this guy up instead. And that sort of thing, like Harry Burley's another one of those people, right, in town where it's like, let's lift these other voices up,
Sure.
in town besides Perry. And I don't
There's
know,
other good stories out there.
right. Like, and I have a Don't Give Up the Ship flag at our house. Like, it hangs
Of
up.
course.
I have a bunch of Perry shirts. Of course I do. I'm from, I live in Erie, but,
But you have a small beef with him.
I
Okay.
have a little bit of a beef with him, yeah.
A little bit of a beef. It's a
Are you
lot.
guys originally from Erie?
I am. He's a
I'm
transplant.
not. Yeah, I moved up here for college. So I grew
Okay.
up in Latrobe, PA, which is like 45 minutes
I know
outside
where
Pittsburgh.
Latrobe is.
Yeah,
St.
I'm
Vincent's
familiar,
down
yeah.
there.
That's right. So I grew up there, and then I moved up here. I went to college at Gannon and moved away for graduate school. Went to Ohio University for graduate school, but then
Boo.
I know.
No, that Ohio.
See that flag?
No, Ohio,
It's a
not
different
Ohio.
one. OU, man.
Oh, okay.
Not Ohio State.
We're in the MAC,
All right.
dude. We're not hurting anybody. Don't worry. Listen,
But-
the quarterback who Nathan Rourke, who was the quarterback for OU a couple years ago, he's now Trevor Lawrence's backup in Jacksonville. Come on, that's exciting. Who loves that? It's the Jaguar.
Yeah, I was hoping for an all Florida Super Bowl this year, low key. I
But
don't
then
even.
Tom Brady would have been in the Super Bowl now.
Tom Brady is like Oliver Hazard Perry.
He's not a good dude, people. Bad dude.
In different ways, but like he is quite he's won many battles, but I do not like him.
Yeah, but no, the goal was always to move back to Erie. Like, when I went to grad school, it was only gonna be temporary. I spent a year after grad school, after I dropped out of my PhD program, which was short-lived.
That'll happen.
I lived with my parents, and I worked at Home Depot for a year. So that was good, and then I was like, I gotta get out of here. So then I moved back to Erie. So
It built a lot of character for you.
it did. Now I work in
Yeah.
retail, again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But a different kind of, and a more enjoyable kind of
yes,
retail.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, yeah. So I'm not originally from Erie,
Right.
but she is.
Yeah.
And you
no,
guys carry
I-
so many local authors too. That's awesome.
Try. Yeah, that's been a big thing. So Gail, the old owner, like her big thing was helping local authors. Like, so if you know the Waldemere Mystery Files, have you seen those books? They're little kid mysteries about Waldemere. So David Gorman writes them, and Dave's parents are Steve and Nancy Gorman, who own Waldemere, right? And Dave is a middle school counselor. Is that what Dave does? full-time?
In Virginia.
In Virginia. So he doesn't live in Erie full time, but he grew up at Waldemere. So
Sure.
these mysteries, they're for, like middle grade levels, kids in like first grade to like fourth or fifth grade. And he's working on the fifth one, but the first one is really cool, but the cover was the carousel, but it wasn't that great. So Gail convinced him to have these cartoony covers on them, and they're awesome, and they sell better, and they're nicer, and so Gail did a lot of that, so it was kind of easy for us to come in. But we carry most every local book. Like, if we don't carry a local book and people have written in, they need to come and see me because I'll put it on the shelf. Most of the local books, not all, but most of them I do consignment. So, it doesn't cost me anything, but it also gives someone an opportunity and a space
Sure.
to have their stuff. We have a lot of books. Like, we just had Amy Eddy. She wrote a memoir. Really good memoir. She was just on the news about it, but she came in and did a signing with us this weekend. We have a signing coming up on Saturday with... Who's Saturday?
I don't remember. I'm
I
sorry.
have to look. Turn my phone off.
You guys also had one of our other guests, Sam Randall, who wrote.
Sam Randall.
I was
Yeah,
Love Sam
yeah,
Randall.
Charlie Ryan.
She brought Charlie, so
Yeah.
Charlie Ryan showed up.
Charlie
It
and
was-
Austin are friends now. They hung out the
bet.
other day.
Charlie's like the coolest dog. In
He's
the
a cool
world.
dog.
We actually had her on the show the week that she did that.
Yeah, the week
signing,
before.
The week
Or-
before.
Oh, nice. Yeah. She was great. So Sam's one of those people, like, in a lot of ways, like, Sam's way cooler than we are. Like,
Way cooler.
in so many ways.
Us too.
Yeah,
like, she's
for
so
sure.
cool. But,
She's cooler than most people, probably.
But she, they roll in and she's all set up. But she's just such a positive person. you know?
Right.
We were like, yeah, we're gonna carry your book. So like, her book, and we did. Now I need to. Oh, it's Mike Dave. So Mike Dave's, he's a new guy. He's from Michigan originally, but he's new to Erie. Like, his wife's from Erie, so he moved back to Erie. So he's going to be in the store on Saturday doing a signing. And then we have one on the 28th, the end of the month, with Alan Swagonski, who wrote Erie Baseball and Softball 360. So he's written two books that are like stories, basically, about Erie baseball and softball.
Oh, cool.
Alan I've known actually since undergraduate. He used to work at Gannon when I was a student there, so Alan I've known for a long time. So we try. We probably have three to four signings a month at the store. Normally Saturdays and Sundays.
So cool.
We just say, that's the one thing I always tell local authors. I'm like, bring me your book and I'll schedule a signing. Like, those are the two things. Like, it's not hard for me to do it. It doesn't. I'm like, I'd rather you have the.
It doesn't hurt you at all, really, to have somebody in there. I wouldn't think.
No, and it only helps, I think it's cool, and that was sort of when we redesigned the store. Our back area is more open, so now when we have a signing, the author's a little more comfortable back there. So
Awesome.
And they have to walk past all those books. They look amazing.
that's right. That's why we put them in the back. I want
Clever
the
marketing.
customers to walk past everything. Grab some stuff off the shelf.
Exactly.
So we try to carry every local author and every local book. If it's about Erie or we think it would be good to carry. Like, Justin Dabrowski's another great example. Justin's second book is coming out in February. We already have him scheduled for a signing. Erie's Backyard Strangler. So that's gonna be pretty cool. So
Good.
we're always trying to find ways to support local authors and local artists and local whatever. We host a poetry night at the store once a month. Mabel Howard, who runs Cafe 710, also runs like 18 different poetry. I don't know. She does way too much stuff. She's too busy for us.
I'm trying to
but
think what her overall is. It's word art.
Word art is what,
Yes.
what she kind of calls
Yes,
it. But she's
she
a
calls it
poet,
word art.
and she hosts a poetry night. So Patrick Fisher, to Your Arts and Culture, approached us, and we were talking to him about something, and we said, hey, we want to host poetry nights. He goes, talk to Mabel. Okay. And now, not only do we host her, but, we carry sweets from Cafe 710
Oh,
at the
nice,
store,
nice.
too. So, and actually they need some help right now. They actually had someone
Yeah,
during one
I
of the
saw
poetry
that.
nights, someone threw a rock through their window. So they're dealing with that, which is horrible. Like,
Yeah,
fact
I mean,
that this
it's
kind of stuff
vandalism, and then just makes you feel really unsafe.
yeah.
in your space.
And all the poets were there. So I talked to, so
Wow.
we ran into Chuck Joy, who's a poet, at the WQON 50th anniversary thing. And Chuck was like, hey, do you hear what happened to Mabel? And we're like, no, what's going on? Because it just happened like the day before. And, so I've been talking to her, and she's doing all right. They're doing all right. But
Good.
it's, local has to help local, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you worried? What do you guys think about the readership in Erie? You think we have is Erie like a reading city?
I think so. I think it's surprised me in some ways, like just how varied our customer base, our audience is. I think there's a misnomer too about that young people aren't reading, or if they're reading, it's on
The internet.
Kindle or on devices, or and that's according to who's buying books at our store. That's not necessarily true.
I think there's something kind of it almost brings up nostalgia doing, at least for me, grabbing a book and reading it. It's a disconnection from all this technology that seems to be taking over and
Right.
ruling, owning life.
Gen Z they're sick of looking at screens. Yeah, that's right. When I talk to them all the time, right? I mean, they come in to pick up books. They want a hard book, and they're willing to buy a new book. They're willing, they're cool. They just want to buy what they want to buy and read what they want to read. And there have been some authors who, I mean, so the other part of it is the social media side of it, right? Which is Book Talk and Bookstagram, right? So like, there are authors that are famous because of TikTok, right?
Sure.
Colleen Hoover is the most famous author in the world right now. She has 8 books on the New York Times bestsellers list. 8 books. Is she that good? She's fine. She writes romance, But because of her engagement with her fans on TikTok and Instagram, she is super famous, right? And we sell her books like crazy. We have a hard time stocking
don't
them.
denigrate romance
Oh, I
as a
won't.
genre. You're going to alienate half of our customers.
What is my favorite genre of book? At the
I know
moment?
you love your rom-coms.
I love rom-coms.
Yeah.
I love rom-coms. I'm the one of. It's funny because of the staff. Well, now Caitlin. We can include Caitlin. Our intern Caitlin reads romance. But prior to Caitlin starting, Ginny and I, who's one of our employees, she sometimes reads romance, but it's not like her favorite. I was like the only one that reads romance.
Oh, yeah?
But only rom-coms. They have to be funny. So if they're not funny, I'm out.
Okay.
So.
Oh, yeah.
But no, we see good readership, and there's, it's a little bit of everything, but also we've got some good customers. Like, we've got some younger customers, we've got some more families coming in, and then we have some regulars. We have some people that come in once a week. They buy 4 books. They bring in 4 books because you can trade in books in our store, which is kind of cool because you get store credit. So we have people that like swap out books, and you always have to pay something. So it's not like we're not making a little bit of money, but I have customers, like, I felt bad because we were closed for 2 days, and like a couple of my regulars that I didn't tell. Like,
that
hey,
was
we're
their
going to be
days to
closed.
come in.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, like, sorry, we're closed, but like, I know they'll be back. I'm not worried about it. I had signs all over the place, but those are the ones I felt really like bad for. I'm like, I know you guys need to swap them out, but I tried to catch as many of them as I could, like the week leading into the 2-day close of like, hey, don't come on Tuesday and Wednesday. Like, we're not going to be, like, we're going to be there. We're going to be there, but the door is going to be locked. So.
And you're not allowed to touch anything on the floor.
Don't touch anything.
Yeah.
Everything needs scanned. So.
That's good you told them, they're just like looking in and see you, like looking at them, like, don't touch that door.
Yeah. Don't think about it. Don't make me feel bad about this right now.
We had one customer, we all felt bad. We were all like kind of in the back. We're like, oh.
No.
We're just going to let her go.
Pretend we're not here.
Right? Yeah, she'll be all right. We're good. So.
Warren, what kind of genre do you usually read?
Oh my goodness. A little bit of everything. Honestly, I'm probably big fan of literary fiction. I like my sci-fi though. I was so impressed when I looked at what one of your latest picks was, The Roadside Picnic.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That was our buddy Zolt who picked that. He's actually
Dude,
from
Zolt's
Hungary.
great. I love Zolt.
Zolt's super fun. He's a crazy dude, but that was his choice. He's trying to bring. We've all been like this go around. We've all been trying to pick books that other people probably wouldn't particularly read. That one of us liked individually, like a certain genre or whatever. And I haven't gotten very far into it, but I think it's going to be a pretty interesting book.
I looked at it on the shelf and I had to snap a picture because I have inside jokes with that book with one of my colleagues from Slippery Rock.
Oh,
She's
nice.
like, you're not going to believe what one of the book clubs is reading, because it is a pretty niche book. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Zolt is a niche person.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
would
yeah.
say that.
Big time. Yeah. No, and you read. Yeah, you read a little bit of everything.
I
though,
do,
but-
honestly. Like, I'll read romances here and there, and they don't have to be funny. I'll do some steamy ones. I'll do some,
Ooh,
yeah. I mean,
steamies.
listen.
Yeah.
the steamy
Everybody likes a little bit of love. You know what I mean?
Someone brought in the steamy and rice erotica the other day, which I was like, that is a deep cut. Like, that's something you gotta carry if you're a used bookstore. But it's
Right.
like, okay, go for it.
We have a lot of mystery thriller readers, and like, I love that genre too. And I feel like our other staff, that might be a little bit of like what I now am reading a lot more of, because I kind of see it as like I might be the only one reading a ton of that to be able to recommend.
Yeah,
so
because we have our staff reads we have like one of the big genres that we sell is historical fiction. So we like Shar, who's like our like one of our employees, she reads a ton of historical fiction, recommends it a ton, and people know, like, we have a lot of customers that are like, Shar recommended this book, I loved it, I want to read it. You
Yeah,
know.
she
Right.
has. They really trust her recommendations.
And
so.
then you know, but I don't just read rom-coms, guys.
It's a lot of
Come on, you know, no, but we also, the two of us also do a lot of audiobooks. Like she drives.
Yeah,
a
no,
lot.
I drive a
Yeah.
ton.
So we do like I'm just finishing one up that Julia Whalen, who's the best audiobook narrator. Like if she is narrating the audiobook, it's gonna be good because she's the best. She puts on like a performance.
Nice.
And I'm just finishing one up, and but I liked it, so I got a hard copy for the store that I'm gonna try to like recommend to people.
Sure.
You know, so we do a lot of that as well. So
Audiobooks are so great for like long drives and like plane trips or like anything that where you're going to be stationary for a long time and don't want to stare at a screen. Or
yeah, we pick audiobooks for a lot of drives. Like we did
Yeah.
Upgrade this summer on vacation. That was a good
There was
one.
another one we did. Book Lovers.
Oh, we did book lovers. That was going to the
Book
beach.
Lovers.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm a big fantasy and sci-fi fan for the most part, and like really dark satire, like
Like Vonnegut.
Vonnegut and Palahniuk. He's one of my favorites. But those guys are great. Actually, we read a Vonnegut book for one of our book clubs, Cat's Cradle.
Oh, Cat's Cradle is my favorite one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite one again.
I like Breakfast of Champions a little bit more.
I'm a big Slaughterhouse fan as far as Vonnegut goes.
That's a good
There's a
book.
good documentary on him too on Hulu.
He has a very interesting history. He
Yeah.
was a POW twice in World War II and survived wounded or like Battle of the Bulge or some really horrific.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
It was crazy, and then wrote a bunch of real weird books afterwards. So
Right.
good for him.
Yeah.
I like postmodernism, Shakespeare. I'm awful. I'm
Yeah.
awful. I'm
He
an
keeps
awful
threatening.
person.
No, I love
He keeps
that.
threatening to pick Shakespeare like for our book club.
You
and we're
should.
out.
Well,
my
here's
gosh,
the
please.
here's the thing. The first book that I picked because I've always liked
it was horrible.
I've always liked Philip Roth.
I love Philip Roth.
Yeah, so I picked Portnoy's Complaint.
It's awful. I mean, I wouldn't have picked that one. But
Yeah, well, I picked that one because I just love the way that it's written. Like because like he writes it in a narrator voice that's meant to piss you off. It's
He's
supposed to be a
he
neurotic
pissed me
person.
off.
Yeah.
And everybody was just like, we fucking hate this
That
book
was like
so
the
much.
universally most hated book
It
of
was
all books.
yeah, I think it was. But so like I was like, okay, I like Tim O'Brien. You know, he's a great author.
Yeah.
I was like, I've read it. You know, I had read If I Die in a Combat Zone. You know, Box Me Up and Ship Me Home. And I was like, that's a good book. I've never read the things they carried all the way through. But I'd read the short story. I was like, these guys are gonna like this. And
Oh
they
yeah, I
did.
remember when you guys thought things they carried.
Yeah.
That was like our last book that we read as a book club. It was really good. It was super good. Also read Catching Cacciato by him, or
Okay.
Chasing Cacciato.
Going After.
Going After Cacciato.
Yeah.
Which was super good.
But like, I'll end up like I just read you know, on the definition of culture by T.S. Eliot. You know, like that's the kind of stuff I do in my
Oh
free
yeah, no,
time,
you like
so-
the postmodern.
Yeah, I do. So like everybody else is reading cool stuff.
When I was on the Philip Roth side of things, when I was at Gannon, they let me teach like a history class, right? I have master's in history. Like, basically it was like they didn't want to teach the 8 a.m. like anyone in the departments. They let me. So the one semester, it was my last semester, I was teaching U.S. history, and I had like 16 Villa juniors, right? They were taking like dual enrollment college classes.
Sure.
So I always like teaching like a novel and a play and whatever, you know. So I was like, oh, I'll teach American Pastoral, right?
That's a
Philip
good
Roth.
book,
Like I
yeah.
love Philip Roth, right? They hated that book so much, and they let me hear about it. Like it was not even like subtle. They were just like, "This is the worst book we ever read.
Was
You're the
that
worst
also
teacher."
the semester that I had you do that Haitian play though?
No, that was a different. No, everyone liked the Haitian play. That
Oh,
was a
that's
good one.
good.
Yeah, yeah, that was a good one.
That's the worst feeling in the world. This is the negative of a book club, okay? The worst feeling in the world, I think, is when you're like, I love this author so much, I'm going to share it with my friends. Or with anybody, and then these people read it and they're like, what is wrong with you?
So-
It's the worst thing that's ever been put on paper.
So we host another book club at
Yes,
Erie.
can I please tell us
I'm
about
going to
it?
start and then I'll let you finish, all right? Because here's the story. So we host a book club at Erie Ale Works, right? Books and beers, right? So we've been friends with Jeff and Steve at Erie Ale Works for, I mean, since year 2 or 3 that they were open. I mean, we've been friends with these guys forever, and they're awesome. So we were at a book store in Virginia. We were talking to the owner, and she said, "Oh, we host a book club at a brewery." We're like, "We're friends with the brewery. Like, we should host a book club there." So
Sure.
And Steve's a reader, and Jamie's a reader, who's one of the bartenders. So we're like, "All right, we'll do it." So we so we're picking books, and we read Heart
Are you
Shaped
gonna
Box.
let me tell any of this?
Yeah, I'll get to my
No.
book. So we read Heart Shaped Box by Joe Hill. No, Neil Gaiman was first.
Yes,
Then-
that was my pick, and honestly, it's probably the most beloved one we did.
Yes, so far.
So far.
We've only been doing it a couple months. So for Christmas, everyone said I had just read In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle, right? Which I love Rebecca Searle. I love her books. So I'm like, oh, this is a good one. I just read it. It's short. Like, it's like not, it's about 200 pages. I'm like, it's not real long. I love the ending. I love this book. So
He sold it as this is one of those time jump or like kind
does have a
of
time jump.
little sci-fi-ish, but it's really literary fiction and it's so quick. You'll love it. It's about love. It's good for the holidays. It was a cancer book where someone dies painfully in a really prolonged, awful way of cancer, and we had to read it for December
Cheery.
18th.
You're like, this
You
is
were the worst.
Very cheery.
such a heartwarming.
I walk into the house.
Okay, we should warn people that there were major spoilers on that book.
Yeah,
Don't,
sorry.
like, yeah, sorry.
But we walk into, I walk into the house, and she's just sitting on the couch crying, going, "Why would you pick a sad cancer book?" I'm like, "I liked it." She's like, so everyone at book club yelled at me for the duration of the hour.
You ruined Christmas for all those people.
pretty much.
You did.
Yeah.
You did.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, then, so this month we're reading this book called Westmouth Drafts, which is a historical fiction that Shar has recommended to me a million times, and I haven't picked up. So finally, someone else at the book club, unbeknownst to us, recommended it. We're like, all right. So John, who's in the book club, comes up to us on Saturday
While we're
night.
at the bar, while we're at Uriel Works.
Right. So the book club meets this coming Sunday, but this was this past Saturday, and he says, kind of accusatory. He's
Yeah,
like,
no, he worried me.
Yeah, he's like, "Who picked this book?" And we're like, "Oh God, wasn't us." Like,
It wasn't me. I didn't do it, John.
And he goes, "I loved it. It was one of the best books I've ever." We're like, "Oh, thank God."
That could have gone a completely different way.
Ooh.
I was nervous because,
yeah.
I mean, the last couple picks we were
Yeah.
very critical of.
So,
What do you guys think makes for a good book or a good story? What are the key things that really make things stand out for you?
I think it depends on the genre for me, a little bit.
I really like, especially lately, I've been huge on the whodunits, the mystery, trying to figure it out and outsmart the author, or could be a step, solve it before.
are you reading Agatha Christie?
No.
I mean, she's the best at it. She still is to this day. Of mystery writers,
Yeah.
Agatha Christie is still the best.
You
not
gotta
all
read
of hers.
Confessions, for the one book that we
Yeah,
read
yeah.
by I don't know, some Japanese lady.
Okay.
Kim something, but that was really good. And the other book we read that's super popular, I can't remember what it's called, that Kayla picked,
Oh, not
by Michael Christilian, or some Greek name.
not the
Alex
Silent
Silent Patient.
Silent Patient.
I hate that book.
Yeah.
You hated
I
it.
hated it.
It was okay.
He's the worst therapist on earth.
Oh yeah, he's definitely not a good therapist.
No spoilers, people. This guy's a terrible therapist.
He's definitely not very good at it. He's not cut out for that role.
No.
But I greatly enjoyed his timing. I think that's what really
Yeah.
got me in that book
Yeah.
is the timing, because I feel just before the author came to the conclusion, or before the author revealed the
Yeah.
conclusion, you're right before you kind of catch it at the same time.
No, our friend
Which I
Kelly,
really appreciated.
our friend Kelly, who's the one that basically told us that the store was for sale. She read every Agatha Christie this year, I think, every single
Yeah.
one. And she said it's funny because, not funny, but she's like, you can tell as she got older, because I think she got dementia or something. She got sick when she got older, and she's like, she was still writing. You're like, I feel like someone was making her write, because these books are
Yeah.
terrible as she gets older. But her her best ones are still
Yeah.
the best mysteries.
Kelly will rank them for you and tell you which ones are top 5 good Agatha Christie ones.
Do you
and then yeah.
How do they hold up against Scooby Doo?
Scooby Doo.
Scooby Doo's my go-to.
That's your go-to for
mystery comparisons?
Whenever, for years, ever since I was a kid,
It's Old Man Withers who owns the amusement park.
I can
dude.
never get the monster right. I'm like,
Dang, it's old.
Mr.
It's the
Jones, the
old
amusement park
rich-
That's right.
proprietor.
It's always the amusement park proprietor.
The
I
old
never,
rich white guy.
get it. I never
Yeah.
get it.
9 times out of 10.
It's always, So
I
no,
also-
she holds up. I mean, Agatha. Yeah, there's still there are some we read The Murder at Roger Ackroyd, which is one of her most controversial but most popular ones. It's kind of a not a deep cut, but it's not Murder on the Orient Express or Death on the Nile, the ones that like everyone knows. And she and we read it for book club. The one that meets at the store read it, and I read it and you read it. And we were all like, she got it.
I guessed it, but really only because I had just read like only weeks before another Agatha Christie where it had a very similar like.
Yeah.
You knew the pattern of the
and I was
author.
like,
But
how are those
but that's
only
the thing
two
with
Agatha
hers
Christies
is
I
not
read this
all
year?
of hers do that. They don't like so some authors like Scooby-Doo, right? It's
Yeah.
always like the beats, right? Or we have a joke. One of our favorite authors is Blake Crouch, right? And he's
Michael Crichton.
He's Michael
but, like,
Crichton for
updated science.
Yeah, but his books, like his 3 books are always like there's always a male cop with a daughter who will make mention of it 8,000 times in the book. There's always a female scientist, right? Like it's like he's got these same beats. Whereas like Agatha, like she zigs and zags on you a little bit,
Go across. You know what book I just read that was interesting, kind of like a mystery thriller, was Where the Crawdads Sing.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and that one I won't give any spoilers, but like I got so caught up in the townsfolk, their hate. That it threw me off of something very obvious, you know. Like I was actually kind of surprised when it was revealed what happened at the end.
So
of the book.
I had a customer come in and she brought it in and to like trade it in used, and I said, oh, like because I had just read it myself, and I said, oh, what'd you think of this book? Oh, I loved it. She goes, my husband didn't finish it. And he was like standing there. And I'm like, well, what do you mean you didn't finish it? He's like, I've got like, I don't know, like 20 pages to go. I'm like, and I said to him, like, why don't you go in the back and take this book and read it? Like, finish it. Because like, that's the big reveal is like the last 20 pages of the book. Like, that's the best part of the book. And this guy like, just gave up. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, finish it up.
I have that though. I feel that I've wanted to give up on that book, on Dave's book, Portnoy's Complaint, like so many times through it. I think like the only thing that kept me going was like the vitriol and spite that I felt towards the main character. Just like the pure hatred of this, I don't know, self-righteous piece of shit.
But then when we
Every Philip Roth book, by the way.
when we had this book club, and a lot of times with our book club, unless everybody likes it, it turns into like a trial where we're defending ourselves,
Personally defending
No,
our
I
value
like
as
that
a human
about
being.
that.
I think that's accurate for all book clubs. I don't know why, right?
And that's what I kept going back to is like a book doesn't have to make you feel all warm and fuzzy. But if it evokes any kind of feeling, then it's probably a good book. So since you hated that main character so much that you wanted to read it, probably to hope something awful would happen to him, then the author did a good job. He served his purpose.
Yeah, I feel like there are other authors who can bring out those same kinds of emotions, but I feel much different. Like Chuck Palahniuk, for instance, like he brings like those same sort of emotions, but he directs it as like at like a society instead of at like one person on a personal level that I can really hate. Whereas if I'm hating society, I seem to enjoy it and actually like that because of my own personal inner teen angst as a youth.
I think it's just tough with books because it's such a commitment. Like someone could make art that is just like so like ugly or like rage inspiring that it's beautiful, but it doesn't take long to look at. Like a book, you have to sit through and read it, and like I don't know, I love when authors go against the grain and make something that they find to be artistic and serve a purpose rather than make people like you feel good.
Oh, feel like me. Wow. Felt that down deep.
Well, and I think so like on like a meta level, like one of our favorite authors, and probably right now my favorite author is Emily St. John Mandel, she wrote Station 11. I don't know if you guys have read that. That'd be a good one for your book club, by the way, because that book's great. But her book that came out this year is called Sea of Tranquility. It was my book of the year. It was far and away my favorite book I read this year. Like not even, well. The other one I liked, Lessons in Chemistry, was also very good but very different. But Sea of Tranquility, her whole thing in all of her books is how like art can exist and thrive or even like just survive in tragedy. So Station 11 is about a pandemic. Sea of Tranquility is also about a pandemic. Like she's always dealing with pandemics. Pre-COVID, by the way, for Station 11, like she wrote that 5 years before COVID. But she always kind of writes about like what role would art play in the end of the world, basically. And I just find her to be amazing. Like, she's just such a good writer.
I think she really gets into like that storytelling is so basic to the human condition and how we relate to each other, and that like our stories don't necessarily have to be about triumphant things that make us feel good. Sometimes what draws us together and what really like unites us is pain,
Right.
and like
true.
suffering.
And I understand and get that, but I feel like...
Sorry. I'm
No,
really like,
no,
yes,
no.
I'm on his
You-
side.
oh,
The
thank
art
you.
that is
Sure.
Hold on,
bad.
time out real quick. Would you like to join our book club?
I have a lot of books about suffering and pain that you'd enjoy.
And I appreciate that, and I understand the suffering and pain, but I feel, just to go back to this point, because it's still hotly contested, I guess, Portnoy's complaint doesn't offer me a different perspective on that suffering, and doesn't make me view that suffering in a different way. Like, I already knew that there are people that are awful and suck in the ways that Portnoy sucked. Alexander Portnoy sucked and was awful. Whereas other writers who go through those different types of emotion and that different kind of suffering allow me to view it in a way that I may not have seen before, or a way that I may not have thought before. Like Albert Camus, for instance. His books are always pretty downtrodden and depressing, but they've offered me a different perspective on how I view my own life and how I view the things that are important in that life.
Maybe you would have felt different if you were Jewish. Because
Alexander Portnoy?
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's the thing with Roth, right? Is like you tend to be like he writes a lot about Jewish American life, right?
Right.
That's a big Roth thing, yeah. I don't know, but art, if art stays with you, right, in some way, shape, or form, like, you may hate that book, but it's going
Right.
to stay with you.
I'm gonna
right?
remember it forever.
Right. Like we, and it's not just like reading too. Like we, speaking of like art in things. Do you want to tell the story about Mr. Burns? Because I love when you tell that story.
Well, it's a play that you will love.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's very postmodern. And I guess deals with like how we don't really know as a culture what is going to be really popular. Like, what's going to be the legacy of like what we're reading as arts now? Like, what is going to stand the test of time and become something else that gets remixed, adapted, appropriated in the future, that like it was that memorable and meaning to us as a culture now that it sticks with us. That I think is one of the main things of Mr. Burns.
So Mr. Burns, so the play
Don't spoil it. Yeah,
well, no, so we
it's
saw this
worth
play
watching.
at Drama Shop, right? Which we also sponsored their book club. Right?
Love Drama Shop.
Drama Shop doing
Awesome
like
place.
the weirdest, coolest stuff, right?
Them and
in
Packa
town.
both have
Packa's
fantastic
doing good,
plays.
weird stuff, right?
Yeah.
And Drama Shop did this play called Mr. Burns, post-electric play. This was years ago now, like because Pat was in
2017.
it. Yeah, our friend Pat was in it, and it was so. But the whole premise is like, it starts with them in like the end of the world, like sitting around a campfire, and they're retelling the Cape Fear episode of The Simpsons, right? And then it takes you through these different time periods where that has evolved, right? That episode of The Simpsons evolved into what is art, as like the world moves, and it's like what sticks with you. But we've seen some things at Drama Shop over the years where we're like, whoa, like that's.
I mean, that play has stuck with me so long that like I reference it, like probably once a month still.
Easily,
because I
yeah.
think about like the what other things get added to that Simpsons episode by the end of it. And that like our memory is so imperfect and things like that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's such a good play. But
No, yeah, Lizzie Borden stuck with me too.
I
this
like
year.
Lizzie Borden a lot. That was the
wild.
first time I'd ever even like heard of the Drama Shop,
my
and
God,
we went to that
yeah.
play, and it was fantastic. I
Yeah, the
loved it.
cast they killed it.
Yeah,
Like,
they-
literally killed
yeah.
it. But they were. we went. So we sponsor their book club. They do a book. So one of the things they do to prepare for the next season is they actually have a book club. They meet once a month and they read the play, like read some plays and see if it fits. And one of the questions they ask at the end of it is like, is this a Drama Shop show, right? And we've known them because Zach, who's the founder of Drama Shop, him and his wife, Zach and I used to work together again, and we went again and together, and then we worked together there too. But now, like, the staff has kind of transitioned. Zach moved. Anna McJunkin, who runs it, and Zach Hoffman reached out to me and were like, hey, do this thing. And so we go to a lot of the shows, and we've seen some really good ones over the
Right.
years. But, like, the Lizzie Borden thing, we saw one of the two shows, but I can't remember which
I
cast
think
it
we
was.
saw the Rose cast.
I think we saw Rose cast too.
Yeah.
It was the one that Anna was not.
It was the one, oh, we saw the one Anna was
Oh,
in. Yeah.
We were the Axe cast.
Really
We
acts
saw
cast.
the
But it was
Axe cast.
wild. And I sent like Char and Ginny, who work for me, I'm like, hey, like you need to go see this show. And they were like, blew the roof off the place. So, you know, like stuff like that, like we try, you know, not just as, you know, the bookstore, but also as people to like
Sure.
do all this art stuff. We like doing that. You know,
Yeah.
we're-
We just went and saw King Lear at PACA not that long ago.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't King Lear. It was
Lion and Winter.
The Lion and
Lion and
Winter.
Winter.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Not King Lear. Yeah,
No,
that's
Lear's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Station 11. That's
Station 11 has
King
King
Lear.
Lear in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got Lear.
I would have. King Lear is kind of my Shakespeare. That's my dog. You know.
Dude, you should do King Lear for your book club. I think
Or The
we're-
Tempest. I
Or
feel
Tempest.
like you would like The Tempest.
I've read both, and let me tell you what, we're not gonna read.
We're not allowed
either.
to do. We're not allowed to. One of the rules of our book club is that we're not allowed to do a book that we've read before. So, Dave, actually, Shakespeare can never happen.
Well, there's
Neither
been-
can those other books that Warren has suggested because you've already read them. So,
Well,
sorry.
I
book
have
club.
not read every Shakespeare play, unfortunately for you.
Yeah, but then you're left with like some bad ones. Like there are bad ones.
There
you
are
know?
bad
So,
ones,
like,
but I don't care.
like when he's doing the Henrys, right? He's doing some Richards at various points. You know, like Richard III's good.
Richard III is good. Richard III is good.
Wow.
If I had to pick, if it wasn't a book or a play that I've already read, if that wasn't against the rules, I'd probably hit y'all with Othello.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've read part of Othello, maybe in like high school or something a long time ago.
Well, if you saw the movie
Yeah.
you know the play Othello. Throwback. I
Right.
love the 2000s like trend of adapting Shakespearean plays into like
Teen comedies?
Teen comedies, and yeah, like it was pretty popular.
Well, that's so. I was talking to one of the who was I talking? I can't remember who I was talking to. I was talking to somebody about like the trends, like the book trends of the next couple of years, and one of them is so. There's been a big thing of like adapting Greek myth, but telling it from like a different perspective.
Yeah.
right? So,
Well,
like
a lot of it's
Circe-
telling it from the women's
Right,
perspective
right.
because a lot of mythology does center the hero, which has
Right.
been typically male.
Right. Like I'm reading right now, like I'm reading Clytemnestra, right, who was Agamemnon's wife. I'm reading an adaptation of that that comes out. It's an advanced copy, so I don't know when it's coming out, but it may maybe. But it's really good because it's telling it from like her perspective, and she was a Spartan princess who basically gets kidnapped and raped and taken to where do they live?
Mentho?
Men.
It starts with an M.
It's an M.
Menthol?
I don't know.
Menthol?
It's one of those.
Menthol.
Menthols, yeah,
Okay.
menthols.
Is that
They're
what
smoking menthols. No, but that's they said the next thing is like the Shakespeare side of it, right? So like taking Shakespeare, like there's the show on Hulu about Rosalind, who's the woman in Romeo and Juliet, stuff like that. So I guess that's like the next trend of kind of where they're taking.
That was
books,
that was a big thing. That's been like a big thing for a long time too. I remember reading like Wicked and all of those books too.
Yeah.
That are I don't know. I really enjoy the different take on like a traditional story. It's
That's one of my favorite ways to write is I have a bunch of like, I gotta refine them, but like unpublished like short stories and stuff. What I like to do is take songs and reimagine them. Like just take like characters and songs, like a Beatles song. Like I have one about Eleanor Rigby, and they tell the story of the person in the song, and it's it's very ingrained in the public. But like I like taking it and writing the same story from a different perspective.
Father Mackenzie, right?
Yeah, like it's actually like a big part of it. I really need to touch that up and get that out there because that's like a big part of it is talking about things from Father Mackenzie's point of view. That's that kind of stuff.
Well, that's the thing. Lauren does in her class a lot of the time is adaptation theory with her, like especially your freshmen. So
Yeah, that's kind of my theme.
that's kind of what they. Yeah, it's become your theme.
Yeah, a little bit.
what kind of English classes do you teach?
So my research area is women's literature, literatures of resistance, so African diaspora, the Caribbean in particular. But I don't get to teach too many courses that are that specific. So
Yeah.
I teach literature of the women's movement. I've taught African American literature and queer lit and film. So
I almost picked a African literature book. It's a new sci-fi, but it's from an African author that was in some sort of she was a refugee and came to America, and it was a sci-fi book, and it was really, really big, but I don't remember what it was called. But it sounded very interesting. It was a futuristic book about Africa and all of these people and going through the different strife and struggle that African women in particular experience.
Afrofuturism is a very, very cool concept that I don't think I can.
It's a genre.
It's a genre. Well, I know, but it's a lot. There's a lot there, and it's one that
There's a lot of past and generational trauma and current trauma that needs to be expressed, I think, from those people in particular, and just to shine light on the atrocities that really are occurring there and the things that people have gone through and survived and are continuing to live with and hopefully flourish with.
That's one thing we try to do as best we can at the store is we're gonna carry James Patterson, we're gonna carry those, but we one thing we do a subscription box every month. People can sign up, get a subscription box, and one of the things we talked about was early on what books you either get a mystery, thriller, suspense, or literary fiction. And it was how can we, get our customers, especially the ones that get these boxes, because they are readers. We know all of them. And they're they're really good customers. They're really good readers. Turned on to some things that they probably won't find on their own, right? Or they might, but maybe won't pick up on their own, right? Mm-hmm. So we the first month was a little harder, just because it was the first time we were doing it. But the second month we picked for the thriller, we picked Bad Cree, which you just finished.
I chose that one because I'm not really all that familiar with indigenous people's literature, and I was interested in it, and this was a mystery thriller by an indigenous author and about Cree women. So, and I just finished listening to it on my way home today. It was very good.
So that we have
awesome.
With that pick.
That was kind of our goal this go around with the book club too, is kind of expose each other to different things, because we all have our own different particular pieces of interest, whether that's spiritualism, sci-fi, futurism, technology, whatever it is, and there's always a book, I feel that fits that niche. And a lot of times it's not about finding a book that is for everyone, because then you alienate because everybody's different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you got to be able to fill. There's so many niches that need filled.
I got my next book coming up. When we draw, I got that Claude McKay book that I was going to do last time.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Caribbean author.
Yeah.
Claude McKay.
That was the one about Harlem, right?
About Harlem, yeah. Home to Harlem, I believe. But, yeah, I love Jamaica Kincaid, but I've read, pretty much all of her stuff, so that wouldn't qualify. I got this great book that when I had a world literature class that I took, I went to Penn State, Barron, and it's just an anthology, but it's called Rotten English, and you're from
I know it.
But it's just incredible. You get a little taste of everything, and
was that with Dr. Champagne?
No.
He's our favorite professor at Barron.
He's
that
up
we
there.
both had.
Yeah, he makes the top 5. I have a lot of.
He's an English professor.
I see. Well, you didn't go for English, so I have a lot more interaction with all those guys, and Dr. Champagne's a genius, but all very good professors up at Barron.
Yeah, for sure. And books led the way there,
We were at a conference in the Caribbean. Which one were we in? The Bahamas?
The Caribbean. Hold on.
It was the year after
Caribbean
we got married.
Studies Association. Yeah.
It was great. We were in the Bahamas. I got real sunburned and watched a lot of Chopped. It was awesome. But she had to go do conference up. But Jamaica Kincaid was
was one of the
keynotes.
Keynote speakers.
Oh, that's incredible.
I was
so we sat in the second row and
and I was like,
right in
you got
front
to
of
talk
us.
to her. You got to talk to her.
Yeah.
You didn't.
I did not, because
went
I wrote 2 chapters of my dissertation on her work.
I know.
I'd fangirl.
Cringe.
It would get really. It would get weird.
And me not having anything to do with the conference, I'm like, let's go talk to her.
Yeah, go for it.
Sunburnt,
Like a little drunk,
Right.
probably. Yeah.
Yeah, there would definitely be, my favorite author ever. She's very dead, so I'm not gonna meet her. But it's Emily Bronte, because I love Wuthering Heights. Yeah, that's my favorite book ever. But yeah, there's always that feeling when it's someone that you get that close association to.
Right.
You don't want to I don't know. make a fool out of yourself.
Yeah, no, I mean, what am I
Especially-
gonna say except that, like, I love your work. I'm
Yeah,
reading about
that's exactly
it a
what you
lot.
say, dude.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. I dedicated a lot of my like time and energy to studying it for years and years, and I just love it.
Right.
I do like when you see an author like either speak or you meet them or whatever, and like you have some expectations, then they blow them out of the water. We saw Margaret Atwood a couple years ago, like
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Linda loves fucking what's the show?
Handmaid's Tale.
Handmaid's
Handmaid's
Tale.
Tale.
Yeah.
So we saw her speak, and she's just like this great, sassy old Canadian lady, right? Like she was just
Good for her.
no bullshit, you know. And like people were like asking, like someone asked her like a stupid question, and she gave them like a real shitty response. I'm like, hell yeah, dude! Like get after
Well,
it,
it
you
was
know.
something that was just basically like, tell us you love libraries. And
Yeah.
she was like, I've got better things to do with my time than like.
Do you think?
Next question, please.
Yeah, right. It's exactly what it was like. It was awesome. I was
think,
like, all right.
I think that, you know what, the literary, and I'm dead serious about this, the literary world, it could really use like a rock star type author, like a Ken Kesey or an Allen Ginsberg, someone who's just like injected into the popular culture, not through their writing, but as a person, you know.
Well, and that's the thing in the 60s, like there were those public intellectuals, right? Like them, James Baldwin. Like Baldwin
Sure.
was like, I mean, he was everywhere, you know, and like that's something we don't have as much anymore, but they're out there. I mean, I think some of those people are, you know, but
I'm trying to think of.
I feel like there are a few science rock stars out there. Maybe I just listen to a lot of podcasts.
Like scientists,
Yeah, like
or like Neil deGrasse
Huberman,
Tyson.
like Neil deGrasse Tyson, the Huberman Report. I don't forget his name, Andrew Huberman.
Bill Nye the Science
Bill Nye the
Bill
Science
Nye.
Guy.
Hey,
Not
Bill
so
Nye's
much.
sweet, dude.
Yeah, he is. I love Bill Nye.
Both the Weinsteins. There's, I mean, I
Like
feel like there's.
like Harvey Weinstein.
No,
Oh, God.
Brett Weinstein and I think his brother's Eric.
Okay, just I don't know.
Definitely not Harvey's.
Okay. Just want to lay that out.
Actually,
there.
I meant
I don't
Epstein.
know
He was an
that,
intellectual, right? No.
I just don't know that authors are necessarily the kind of people that like would be rock star like people because they tend to be pretty bookish. I don't know. And quiet and
John Green and Hank Green, I
Oh,
think, do a
that's
good
true.
job. I think the Green
Yeah.
brothers do a good job. Like they
do that vlog.
Yeah,
they've
they
had
like
for like ever.
Yeah, they still are. Yeah, they're real active on TikTok and stuff, and you know. But yeah, no, it's definitely tough. You know, it's on like an intellectual capacity, right? Like it's just there's not an avenue like. Baldwin and Ginsberg, like those guys were going on like Johnny Carson, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's not happening. Like you're not gonna have like, you know, I don't know.
Although I don't know, like okay, so Angela Davis. I mean, anything she goes to, it's like she's treated like a rock star there. I was at a conference where like she got a standing ovation when she walked in the room. People just like
It's Angela Davis.
It's Angela Davis.
Right.
Need some performance art, like get a author to wrangle up some acid in a school bus and drive across the country and film it, you know.
Who was the author of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas?
Oh,
Hunter
S.
Thompson.
Thompson.
So that was
Thompson.
that was by his own admit. Like he tried actively to be that person.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, he was interesting. I always thought Ken Kesey was more interesting than Hunter S. Thompson.
Well, I mean,
But-
Kesey only writes like one book. You know,
he wrote,
like,
yeah,
I mean,
time out. He wrote more than one book.
I'm just saying, like Kesey became more known for other stuff, right? Besides his like after you know, like,
Yeah.
he wrote his book, he got real famous, he made a lot of money, and then he started making people do acid with him. You know,
Yeah,
So-
yeah. I mean, what?
That's-
The American dream. You know?
We just build such close personal relationships with these people that we read from, you know, especially
Oh, yeah.
when they're really, you know, writing something that shows or exposes the humanness or helps us feel that real human emotion that we all have inside.
There are some cool like Judy Blume, right? Is like everyone's favorite author. Like everyone loves Judy Blume. She owns a bookstore in Key West, and apparently, like I really want to go because when you go, she owns it with her husband. Like she's just like stocking shelves. Like she's like
hanging out.
working. You know, she's not like and we're going to Nashville this summer. Ann Patchett, Ann Patchett would be good for your book club. She's great. But Ann Patchett owns a bookstore down in Nashville that we're going to go to when we go down there this summer. So. You know, like sometimes they're like doing cool stuff,
Right.
You know, so
Yeah, no, she's just like taking pictures with books on her Instagram.
yeah, that's what she does. Yeah, at the
Well,
bookstore
guys,
she owns.
Unfortunately, I'm sure we could keep talking for another hour, but we're gonna have to close things up. It's been a pleasure having you guys here.
Thanks for
having
Yeah,
us.
this is super
It
fun.
was fun.
Go check out Werner Books, buy a book, read, all you international and intergalactic listeners out there,
Especially the one in Australia.
especially all of you guys and us as well. Make sure you give us a like, follow, share on Facebook, Instagram, whatever your platform is. Tell a friend about how cool our podcast is. We love you guys so much. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Peace.